are you?
Well, thank you so much.
How are you getting on?
He's
You okay?
Look how smart he
I'm
is.
so smart.
He's very smart.
You're matching.
Yeah, exactly.
He put a lot of thought into that.
What have you been doing?
What have you been doing?
We went to the photograph auction.
Photograph auction, and you sold. You were a bit of a beast at raffle ticket selling when we had the.
The state banquet at Buckingham Palace was meant to be business as usual, full of royal sparkle, global dignitaries, and polished speeches. Inside those walls, every detail is choreographed. Who walks in when, who sits where, and yes, even what jewelry gets worn. But this time, one small detail flipped everything upside down. All eyes were already on Princess Catherine as she made her entrance. Her gown was stunning, but what really stopped people mid-conversation was what she wore on her head, the lover's knot tiara, a piece not just drenched in diamonds, but in royal history and deep emotional weight. It once belonged to Princess Diana, and for many, it will always be Diana's tiara, no matter who wears it next. Now, Kate has worn this tiara before. It's not brand new to her, but something about this moment felt different. The timing, the setting, the guests in the room, it all added pressure to what should have been a graceful fashion choice. Because this time, it didn't just sparkle, it spoke. People noticed the weight of the moment. For those who follow royal dynamics closely, this wasn't just a headpiece, it was a message, a visual reminder that Diana's presence is still very much alive through her daughter-in-law. Moments later, Queen Camilla entered the room, but if you looked close, just for a second, you could catch something in her expression. That half-second hesitation where it seemed she saw Catherine and felt something shift. Her smile remained, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Observers described a slight stiffness in her walk, a sense that the air around her had thickened, because while the public might see two royals in glittering jewels, those inside the palace understood the real undercurrent. This wasn't about sparkle. This was about symbolism. And Camilla, whether she admitted it or not, had just been visually reminded that no matter how far she's come in the royal pecking order, she'll always be in Diana's shadow. The lover's knot isn't just some crown passed from royal to royal, it's tied to legacy, emotion, and memory. Diana wore it during some of her most powerful and vulnerable moments, and now seeing Catherine wear it brought back everything people loved about Diana. Camilla, on the other hand, has worked hard over the years to shape a public image, especially after the controversies tied to Diana's story. She stepped into her role beside King Charles with dignity, but moments like this show how delicate that image still is. Because as soon as Kate entered with that tiara, the spotlight shifted. Camilla faded. And for someone who now wears the title of queen, that kind of comparison has to sting. Now, if you think this was just a fashion moment, buckle up, because that tiara tells a story Camilla wishes stayed buried.
Well, the British royals have posed for a new formal photograph. Of course, your eye is drawn to the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton, as it always is.
Yes.
You just can't help but notice her. You notice there, she's the only splash of color in this picture. But take a close look at her tiara.
Yeah.
That's one of Princess Diana's favorites.
To understand why this moment hit so hard, you have to go back. Because the lover's knot tiara wasn't just Diana's favorite, it became part of her identity. Crafted in 1914 for Queen Mary, it was later passed to Queen Elizabeth II, who gifted it to Diana when she married Prince Charles. From there, it became her signature. Photos of Diana at state dinners, charity galas, and even difficult royal engagements almost always show her wearing it. Even when she was visibly uncomfortable or stressed, that tiara gave her a certain presence. It became a visual armor. So when Catherine wears it now, it's not just a tribute, it's a revival. It brings Diana's memory back to life, and for Camilla, that has to be complicated. This was the woman her name was constantly tied to for all the wrong reasons. For years, Camilla was blamed for breaking up a fairy tale. She was the other woman, the reason behind Diana's heartbreak. And even now, decades later, that narrative still lingers. Seeing the tiara on Kate, who is widely adored and praised for her grace under pressure, probably felt like Diana had returned, but this time in someone the public already loves. It wasn't about imitation, it was about emotional continuation. Catherine didn't need to speak, the tiara said it all. But here's where it gets even juicier. sincere, because this tiara wasn't just borrowed. It now officially belongs to Kate.
You hear time and time again that these soft skills, the creativity, the collaboration, the critical thinking, the flexibility, the resilience, these are things that you'd hear time and time again that businesses are looking for. And it's really interesting seeing how actually, if you work back about how so often the foundations for those skills are built in the earliest years of our lives.
After Queen Elizabeth II passed away, her private jewelry collection was divided, just like royal tradition demands. And here's the key part. As queen consort, Camilla had the privilege to choose first, so naturally everyone assumed she'd pick the lover's knot. It made sense. After all, it's one of the most iconic tiaras in royal history. But that didn't happen. Instead, the tiara ended up in Catherine's hands, and that raised a lot of eyebrows, because if Camilla had the chance to claim it, why didn't she? There are a few theories floating inside royal circles. One says Queen Elizabeth had already promised it to Catherine years ago, long before her passing. Another claims it was King Charles who personally ensured the tiara would go to Kate as a way to honor Diana's memory through his daughter-in-law. Some believe the queen simply felt a quiet bond with Kate and trusted her to carry the emotional weight that came with such a historic piece. Whichever version you believe, the result was the same. Camilla never touched it, and now she never will. Once a tiara is officially passed on, it belongs to that person for life. And that's when everything shifted, not just in the room, but in royal dynamics. Because this wasn't about diamonds anymore, it was about power. The symbolism was powerful. Catherine didn't have to say anything. The tiara spoke for her. To the public, this wasn't just a style choice, it was a message. Diana's legacy is still alive, and it's living through Catherine. And that kind of emotional connection can't be staged. The response wasn't limited to fans either. Analysts picked up on it too. They described it as a moment that perfectly balanced tradition and sentiment. Kate didn't just wear a tiara, she wore a visual commitment to carrying forward the same grace, strength, and dignity Diana once represented. And the public instantly embraced that. The feeling was clear. She wasn't just dressed like a queen, she felt like one. Now here's the contrast. Queen Camilla. She was there too. Camilla later stepped out wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, one of Queen Elizabeth II's most iconic pieces. If there was ever a crown that screamed royalty, it was this one. But here's the thing, Camilla's tiara was full of legacy, but it didn't move people. While Camilla spent years being publicly criticized and slowly building trust, Catherine was embraced almost immediately. The media loved her. The people adored her. She stepped into royal life with ease, grace, and none of the baggage Camilla had to carry. And that contrast created distance. So when Kate appeared in Diana's tiara, a symbol Camilla never got to wear, never will wear, it wasn't just a fashion statement. It felt like a shift in storylines. Camilla may hold the title of queen, but Catherine had just stepped into a role that can't be written in official titles, the people's favorites. And here's the part that hurts the most. For Camilla, this isn't about jewelry. It's about something she'll never truly earn, the people's love.
I knew that William had asked my father, but I didn't know if my mother knew, so I came back from Scotland and my mother made it didn't make it clear to me whether she knew or not. So both of us were there sort of looking at each other and feeling quite awkward about it, but it was amazing to tell her, and obviously she was very happy for us.
Here's what most people don't realize. Royal tiaras aren't chosen like accessories for the night. They're not borrowed, they're not switched around, and they're definitely not shared. Once a tiara is assigned to a royal woman, that's it. It's hers. Camilla, as queen consort, had first pick when Queen Elizabeth's private jewelry collection was divided. She could have claimed almost anything in the royal vault, but not the lover's knot. That one had already been passed down to Catherine. Whether it was Queen Elizabeth's quiet decision or a symbolic move supported by King Charles to honor Diana's legacy, we may never know for sure. But what's clear is that Camilla can never wear that tiara. That's not just a rule, that's a message. Because the lover's knot isn't just about diamonds, It's about belonging. It tells the world who was chosen to carry forward Diana's memory, and the answer wasn't Camilla, it was Catherine. That's why the moment stung so deeply, not because Kate looks stunning, but because it confirmed something unspoken inside those palace walls. In the eyes of tradition, in the rules that the monarchy follows to the letter, that Tiara silently declared Camilla wasn't the one. She may sit beside the king, wear the title of queen, and fulfill every official duty, but she will never be the woman tied to that tiara's story. That chapter closed the day it was given to Catherine, and when Kate wears it, she's not just completing an outfit, she's carrying the weight of Diana's memory. That's a burden and an honor that no crown alone can give. So the next time we see Catherine step out in Diana's tiara, know this: it's not just a royal fashion choice. It's a crown loaded with memories, messages, and monarchy shaping power. Because in the royal family, tradition isn't just what they do, it's who they are. And when it comes to power, it's not always the person with the biggest title who holds it. Sometimes, it's the one who carries the quiet legacy, wrapped in memory and sealed with public love. Catherine doesn't need to compete, she doesn't even need to speak. The tiara speaks for her. It tells a story that Camilla has no part in. And that story started with Diana. It continues through the woman the people now adore. Because in this family, Camilla may wear a queen's crown, but it's Kate who wears the crown of emotion. The one that connects, that touches, that means something. And that's what really holds power in the royal world. Not just tradition, but feeling. So what do you guys think? Was Kate honoring Diana or sending a quiet message? And do you believe Camilla's reaction will ever move from quiet discomfort to something more public? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because in the royal world, even silence speaks volume.